Have you ever wondered about the social lives of chickens? Chickens are very social animals, but they like to do things in their own chickeny ways. Today, we're going to have a look at understanding chicken social behavior so you can use that knowledge to better care for your flock. Let's look first at what the natural social group of chickens are. So if chickens were left to their own devices, what kind of social groups would they form? Well, the core social group for chickens is a rooster, or maybe up to sort of 3 roosters, which would be a dominant rooster and maybe a couple of his sons, which are in lower positions, and their group of hens. And core social groups for chickens under natural conditions range from about 10 to 30 birds in the flock. They don't tend to get larger than that before the flock starts to split out and form their own new group of chickens. Roosters and hens have their own separate hierarchies. So there will be a rooster hierarchy that will have the roosters ranked in 1, 2, 3 sort of positions, and the hens have their own hierarchy where they work out who's the boss of who. And those are kept quite separate. The hens don't really get involved in the rooster hierarchy, and the roosters don't really get involved in the hen hierarchy, except for maybe breaking up the occasional fight. Even though roosters and hens have their own separate hierarchies, hens will generally defer to adult roosters. So, generally speaking, a rooster will outrank a hen under most circumstances. So this is the natural structure where normal natural chicken behavior can play out. When we start to change this structure, different social behaviors can start to emerge. Let's talk now about the different social roles that hens and roosters play in the flock. And we'll start by looking at the role that roosters play. Roosters are responsible for the safety and security of the flock, and they take their jobs very seriously. A rooster will be constantly on alert for any signs of danger, and if he senses anything happening in the environment that he's concerned about, he will make an alarm call to warn the hens to take cover or run. And chickens have all sorts of different complex vocalizations that they use to communicate this information with each other. And that is the main job of a rooster in the flock. He also will look for high-value food and call the hens to come and eat that high-value food. And he will usually share it with his favorite hens first. So he'll be on the lookout for that. He will also cruise around and check out different nesting spots. And then he will take the hens to show them those nesting spots. But generally, the spots he thinks are a really great option, the hens may not agree with him, and they tend to go to wherever they have picked instead, but he really likes to show them different nesting areas. And while roosters are not in the same social hierarchy as the hens, sort of so to speak, they will step in to break up fights between hens if they decide that those fights are getting a bit too aggressive. So you will often see a rooster come in when he hears hens getting ready to have a proper fight, and he will get between them and diffuse the situation. So what role do hens play in the flock? Well, so long as there's a rooster in the flock, the hens are sort of released to live their best hen lives. They're going to be foraging for food. They're going to be hanging out with their friends, dust bathing and sitting in the sunshine and generally having kind of a great life. And they're going to be laying eggs and preparing to sit on those eggs and raise chicks. So hens are really focused in a natural sort of setting on getting their health and well-being up high enough that they can sustain sitting on their clutch of eggs and then raising chicks. And from that perspective, the roosters are supporting them in finding food to make sure that they're in great condition for being able to sit on eggs. So that's sort of what hens are all about. So even if they aren't going to raise babies, that is sort of their instinctual behavior. They're going to be focused on keeping their body condition up so that they can be in a position to raise babies, which is quite a big job that takes a lot out of them. hens are very sociable with each other and also with the flock rooster. They will form friendships with particular hens that they really like, and you will see this play out. So they will have particular other hens in the flock that they really enjoy being in the company of, and they will tend to hang out together, walk around together, and dust bathe together, sit in the sunshine together, and in some cases these relationships will last for a lifetime. I have found that these close relationships are often found in the sibling bond between hens. So if they are chicks that have been raised together, they will often have a stronger bond together than with other members in the flock. You will often see this when their friend is sick. So if one of the pair in that close relationship isn't feeling very well, you will see that their best friend will sort of hang around with them, will keep checking in on them, and will stay close to them. And I have seen this play out in my flock a few times. I had a couple of Oricana hens that came together. They were siblings. And when one of them unfortunately became a bit disabled and couldn't get around as much anymore, her sister would keep checking in on her and stay close to her. And it was really beautiful to watch that happen. And another pair of hens that I had were actually an Orpington and a Leghorn. So they were completely different breeds, but they were raised together in the same hatch by the same hen. And they had quite a close relationship for their whole lives. And when the Leghorn became not very mobile, her Orpington friend would hang out with her. And unfortunately, the Orpington hen did get ill and passed away before the Leghorn did. And the Leghorn would, in her best capacity, because she couldn't move very well, try and stay close to her sick sister. You can also see these close relationship dynamics play out between hens and roosters. So when those hens were getting ill and not being able to move quite as well as they used to, their rooster was right there with them, keeping an eye on them, protecting them from getting bullied by the other flock members, and generally making their lives as pleasant as possible until they were unfortunately unable to continue on in the flock. Of course, no discussion on chicken social lives would be complete without talking about the pecking order. Chicken lives are determined by hierarchy. All animals that live in social groups have a hierarchy, including humans. But in chickens, we call this the pecking order. And this is actually where the term came from, pecking order, which we apply to all sorts of different things. It came from the observation of chicken flocks and how they determine rankings between each member of the flock. A well-established pecking order is very important for the calm, happy functioning of a flock. The reason that social animals use hierarchies is so they don't have to waste energy or potentially risk injuries by constantly having squabbles and fights amongst themselves. Once a pecking order is established, which can be a bit dramatic while it's getting sorted out, but once it's established, everyone can just live calm, happy lives because every member of the flock knows who they can boss around and who they have to get out of the way of. Chickens can move positions within this hierarchy, but it's not likely to be a dramatic increase in ranking. So number 5 hen is probably not going to find herself in the number 1 spot overnight. It's more likely that the number 5 hen will switch places with the number 4 hen. And these little jostlings for position can often be going on sort of as background noise to the flock, but they don't tend to become ridiculously aggressive fights. They just tend to be small changes over time in how things play out. And you'll usually see the chickens lower in the rankings move up and down within their lower rankings rather than massive changes happening in the top 1, 2, 3 positions. You may find that you have a hen who is particularly aggressive. She's more of a bully than other hens. And you might think that she is the top hen, the number 1 hen, but it's unlikely. Usually the hen that's in the top spot doesn't really get up to much bullying at all. She relies on her number 2 and 3 in the rankings to do all of that for her, to manage those situations. And she just kind of glides through the flock with everyone deferring to her. So she never has to raise a feather, so to speak, to assert her authority. So you'll often see the hen that is the least involved in pecking order shenanigans is actually in the top position. If you have enough hens in your flock, so over 10 say, and you've had multiple introductions of new birds into your flock, you might start to see some interesting dynamics play out in terms of pecking order and the level of aggression or bullying that different hens adopt. So in my flock, I have a hen whose name is Skipper, and she is one of the sort of older hens in the flock, but she's at the bottom of the older hen hierarchy, but she outranks all of the younger hens that have come after, and she thinks that's pretty awesome. And she is an epic bully of all the younger hens. So she sort of takes all of that pent-up frustration that she has from being the bottom of that older group and takes it out on the younger hens. So they really get out of her way. She really goes a bit extreme with it. Now, she's not aggressive in a sort of nasty way that draws blood or I have any concerns about, but she will be unnecessarily bullying. She won't let younger hens near her. She'll keep them away from food. She'll prevent them from going into the coop where their older group sleeps. So she just generally runs them around and makes their life a little bit less relaxing. But they have all learned to keep out of her way, and everybody is happy. The flock roosters don't tend to get involved in these sort of pecking order shenanigans unless they feel they need to step in and break up a interaction that they think is getting a bit too aggressive between the hens. But a hen that is a favorite of a rooster may find her position in the pecking order rises, so that can happen. But generally speaking, hens and roosters maintain their own separate hierarchies. Now, hens don't seem to pay much attention to where a rooster sits in his own rooster hierarchy. So remember that most hens will defer to an adult rooster, even if that rooster is low in his own rooster hierarchy. But it doesn't seem to be the case that hens think that a higher ranking rooster is any better than a lower ranking rooster. It doesn't seem to factor into their rooster choice, and they will quite happily hang out with and mate with whichever rooster happens to take their fancy. However, the rooster in this situation might get his butt kicked by the more dominant rooster in his hierarchy if he gets caught hanging out with a hen he's not supposed to be with. To finish up talking about the pecking order, we need to talk about broody hens. Now, broody hens are a bit unique in the pecking order. So when a hen has gone broody, sat on her eggs, and emerged with her chicks, she will go to pretty near the top of the pecking order. If she began very, very low in the pecking order, she might not make it all the way to the number 1 position, but she will zoom up the ranks and really be a high-ranking hen. Now, this only applies for while she has the chicks with her, while she is actively mothering them, and all the other hens will stay out of her way because she will aggressively protect her chicks and the environment around them, and she will make sure that they get the best food and the best spots, and she will absolutely be just right up there in the pecking order. Now, once she has finished raising her chicks, once she's decided, I'm finished with these guys now, she will return to roughly the same position she was in before she went through her motherhood experience. Once the chicks are on their own, they will find themselves at the bottom of the pecking order heap, and it might take them months or even years to start to rise in the rankings, but they will have their own little hierarchy amongst themselves. Sound is very important in chicken social lives. Chickens use at least 30 different vocalization sounds they use to communicate different information to each other. They have different sounds for things like there is a predator threat in the sky, there is a predator threat on the ground. They have contented sounds that they make to signal that everything is okay. They have sounds to say, hey, I found some food over here, and they have sounds that they make when they're indignant about something that has happened. So they have a very complex social life around the sounds that they make with each other. It's really, really important for hens and chicks to be able to communicate with each other via sound, and the hen actually starts using sounds to communicate with her chicks even before they hatch. If you remove the ability of the mother hen to hear her chicks, she will rapidly lose interest and kind of forget she even had chicks in the first place. By paying attention to the sounds your flock makes, you can build up a picture of what's going on with them, so you can just listen to what is happening and you'll know if you need to go out and intervene or if everything is going just fine. The further away from that normal flock dynamic, that natural, without human interference flock dynamic we move, the more careful we have to be with what we're providing to our flock so they can still be happy and healthy. Now, it is very common that people can't have a rooster in their flock, and that is going to change the social dynamic amongst their hens. When a flock doesn't have a rooster, one of the hens will have to take on a portion of his roles, and this is usually the boss hen or the dominant hen that will do this. But hens are not specifically designed to do the functions of a rooster, so there might be more aggression that happens in a hen-only flock rather than a flock that also has a rooster in it, providing those calming sort of influences to everybody involved. Having hen-only flocks is one of the main things that people do in chicken keeping that changes chicken behavior. But there are also other things that we do that have big effects. And one of those things is space. So we often keep chickens in much smaller spaces than they would naturally want to occupy. And the smaller the space available to your flock, the more you're going to see potential aggression and bullying behaviors, because there is less opportunity for lower ranking hens to duck out of the way and keep out of the way of higher ranking hens. So there is a higher chance of more aggressive behavior happening in smaller spaces. Other human influences on chicken behavior is about the entire structure of the environment that we're providing to our flock. When chickens find themselves in a big open space, that their run is just an open space, potentially just with 4 corners and a coop in it, then they are going to get bored and they're going to have a lack of choice in their life because there's really nothing to make choices about. And that can raise aggression because the chickens are bored, they're hanging around, they don't have a lot to do, so what they choose to do is just pick on each other. So making sure you have wonderful enriched spaces for your chickens to live in, which I talk about in my video Jungle Up Your Run, you'll be able to sort of massage chicken social behavior because they feel like they have choices and they have opportunities to express their natural behavior and not just pick on each other. Chickens' social lives are complex and important. As humans, we need to be mindful about how our choices and actions impact our chickens' lives. We should do our best to support calm, happy, long-term relationships in our flock so we can have a calm, happy, healthy flock.